Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, creating bathrooms for daily rejuvenation. More at callmosby.com.
From the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this is The Gateway. It's Wednesday, February 26th. I'm Abby Larico. The head of the United States Postal Service announced earlier this month that he's resigning, and it's not clear whether that will affect a proposal to scale back service in rural areas.
There's some major things there that need to be addressed as far as getting rural America our mail in a timely fashion.
Worries over rural delivery coming up after this news on The Gateway. The company that developed Ballpark Village will get a chance to remake the site of the Millennium Hotel. St. Louis's Land Clearance Redevelopment Authority voted yesterday to name Cordish Companies as the redeveloper of the property. Plans call for a $670 million project with residential, office space, and entertainment. Cordish Chief Operating Officer Zed Smith calls the Millennium Hotel site a natural extension of Ballpark Village.
We've learned a lot over the years. We know the St. Louis market well, and we believe now is the time to double down our commitment to its future.
There's no timeline yet for the project to start construction. Work can't begin, though, until the Board of Aldermen approves a redevelopment plan for the site. The new session of the board starts in April. With less than a week till the March municipal primary election, St. Louis election authorities are encouraging people to come out early if possible. Polling data shows about 2,700 early voters so far. That's less than 1.5% turnout for an election in which voters will choose the general election candidates for mayor and comptroller, as well as 2 Board of Aldermen seats. Ben Borgmeyer is the Democratic director of the St. Louis Board of Elections. He says back-to-back elections could be one reason for a light turnout.
We just came off an election cycle where, the emphasis on voting was in your face on a day-to-day basis. And there was an August, November, and then having a March and April kind of following on the heels of that. I think sometimes it does. Voters do get a little fatigued.
Residents can cast their ballots early at 6 libraries, including the Schlafly, Kings Highway, and Carpenter branches. Early voting is available up until Election Day, which is March 4th. You can find more details ahead of casting your ballot on our voter's guide at stlpr.org. Cuts to the federal workforce by the Trump administration include 2,000 employees of the National Forest Service. St. Louis Public Radio's Jonathan Ahl reports the effects on forests in Missouri and Illinois are not clear.
Sources at the Mark Twain National Forest in southern Missouri and the Shawnee National Forest in southern Illinois confirm there have been positions eliminated. The national office did not respond to questions. Steve Ellis is a retired Forest Service employee who started his career at the Shawnee. He says the terminations will hurt the economy in small towns near the forests.
These are real people that live in these communities. Their payroll circulates in these communities. They do volunteer work in the communities. The things they do on the ground keep mills open.
Ellis says he suspects both forests will limit their recreation offerings and dramatically reduce long-term programs to protect habitats and limit wildfires. I'm Jonathan Ahl, St. Louis Public Radio.
Missouri lawmakers are closely monitoring whether Congress will sharply cut federal funds paying for Medicaid expansion. St. Louis Public Radio's Jason Rosenbaum reports that the move could be catastrophic for Missouri's bottom line.
Missourians passed a constitutional amendment in 2020 expanding Medicaid to the working poor. And some congressional Republicans are proposing no longer having the federal government pick up 90% of the costs for that program. Since the Missouri Constitution requires the state to take in Medicaid expansion applicants, Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Lincoln Huff says reducing the federal contribution to the program will force the state to fill a roughly $750 million budgetary hole.
And that is not anything to sneeze at.
The Republican-led U.S. House may include a cut to states that expanded Medicaid in a massive immigration, energy, and tax cut bill. I'm Jason Rosenbaum, St. Louis Public Radio.
A recent report from the Missouri Foundation for Health shows that nearly 200,000 Missouri children lost their Medicaid coverage after the COVID-19 public health emergency. About 2/3 of those cases were closed for procedural reasons, such as paperwork issues. Thousands of Missouri children who lost coverage are likely still eligible for Medicaid. Katie Blunt is a pediatrician in Columbia, and she says having health care coverage is especially important for children with chronic medical conditions.
For the kids who need refills on medications that are critical, they might miss out on those medications. And instead of having their regular asthma inhaler that helps control their symptoms, instead they're having an asthma emergency.
Blunt says clinics will break the news to families before an appointment, and parents are often surprised to learn their child no longer has health care. A recent American Cancer Society report finds cancer death rates among Black men have decreased by 49% and 33% for Black women. Despite the decrease, the report says Black people are still dying from multiple cancers at an alarming rate compared to white people. Melvi Shahid Sr. is the founder of the Empowerment Network, a cancer support organization in St. Louis. He says the research helps, but Black voices are missing because of medical distrust.
We're not taking advantage of some of that research that's out here, and a lot of that is due to the mistrust that we have in the medical community.
Cancer Society officials say more cancer research and interventions are desperately needed for the Black community. The head of the United States Postal Service announced on February 17th that he's stepping down. Postmaster General Louis DeJoy will continue in the post until his replacement is found. DeJoy has backed a plan for the USPS to consolidate operations, especially in rural areas. But as Harvest Public Media's Hector Alejandro Arzate reports, that's facing a lot of opposition.
It's a long drive from the road to get to Kyla Estes and her family's house in southeast Missouri, about 1.5 miles. And it's even more of a drive to get to the nearest town.
We're about 5 miles from Mark 1, about probably 15 miles from Patton. We're out in the middle of nowhere.
Estes is a third-generation farmer. She and her husband love living out here, raising their 2 daughters. But there are challenges. The nearby post office is only open for 4 hours on weekdays. And Estes says the quality of service from the U.S. Postal Service has gotten worse in recent years. It's taking longer for things to arrive, or they don't arrive at all.
I ordered a dress for my daughter's Christmas concert, and she didn't get it in time. I got the shipping label in the mail instead.
The family also runs a business in Patton that sells parts for trucks and stock trailers. She says postal delays have become a big frustration for their customers. So when Estes heard that USPS had a new proposal to further trim operations in rural communities, she was fed up.
There's some major things there that need to be addressed as far as getting rural America our mail in a timely fashion.
The USPS is trying to save billions by consolidating operations over a 10-year period with a plan dubbed Delivering for America. Among the proposed changes, to decrease afternoon mail collections at post offices more than 50 miles from regional hubs. That would severely cut back service in most rural parts of the country. The plan has drawn major opposition, including from the American Postal Workers Union. Kimberly Carroll is president of the Iowa chapter. She says workers are already struggling to do their job effectively.
We've already seen a slowdown in delivery in the state, a gross slowdown. It's just mind-boggling.
Carroll represents about 900 small post offices in Iowa. She worries there could be a negative impact to local economies, especially where agriculture is crucial.
I really do fear for the survival of small towns in the United States, especially in Iowa. Some of them are holding on by a thread right now, and the thing that is keeping them in existence is the fact that they have a postal service.
Even as Postmaster General Louis DeJoy announced his resignation, he has asked that his replacement move forward with the plan. At a meeting for the Board of Governors earlier this month, DeJoy said it will save USPS almost $4 billion.
It is time for us to act before it is too late to save the Postal Service.
I don't want to tell you out of 330 million plus people in this country that the only one that supports this is the Postmaster General and his staff, but it almost seems that way.
Tom Day is one of the members of the Postal Regulatory Commission, an independent agency that spent months reviewing the plan. The commission's report said the plan's modeling is flawed and overestimates savings. Day spent 35 years working for the USPS, including at the national level.
I am critical not because it's having a problem and I want to see it fail. I'm critical because I want to see it succeed.
Day says he knows it must change to survive, but not at the expense of rural customers. In rural Kansas, USPS is too important to fail, according to Nick Lewandowski. He's the executive director of the Kansas Farmers Union, which represents about 4,000 members, mostly row crop farmers and cattle ranchers.
It is a service to the American people, and we expect that service, and we don't want to see continued cuts and consolidations made.
The Farmers Union called for DeJoy to resign. Now that he has, they're hoping whoever steps into the position will make sure the post office keeps operating in rural America. I'm Hector Alejandro Arzate, Harvest Public Media.
Harvest Public Media is a collaboration of public media newsrooms in the Midwest and Great Plains, including St. Louis Public Radio. The Gateway is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, a listener-supported service of the University of Missouri-St. Louis. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Abby Larico, and from the St. Louis Public Radio newsroom, this has been The Gateway.